Those of you who believe in romance and would like to continue to be fooled, you may want to leave now. Okay. Given there are a finite number of people here on Earth. Now, assuming there's not someone for everyone, while still living under the unfortunate constraints of monogamy, we're looking for one of these people. Given, for the sake of simplicity, throw one entire gender out of the equation. So there goes half of them. Also, we all have age restrictions, and under very conservative, yet legal parameters, eliminate about 3/4 of the rest. Also, we're not trying to break up any marriages, happy or otherwise, or live the life of the sordid affair. That will get rid of about half of the remainder. So we've just very conservatively narrowed our focus down to 6% of the world's population, 1 in every 16 people. Given, we've all got deal breakers, right? No smokers, no diseases, no fatties, no Republicans, etc. So they're out there. This will eliminate about 65 to 90% of the rest, depending on your standards. Down to 1 in 74. Given, there are also areas of high importance to us. Religious affiliation, the willingness to have children, the willingness to perform certain sexual acts. These are closely followed by areas of less importance. Preferred hair color, preferred room temperature, the willingness to perform other. Now, while none of these are deal breakers in and of themselves, a companion must earn a certain number of compatibility points in order to qualify for a relationship contract. Now, each of you can decide on your own what the minimum number is and how much weight is given to which area, but there is a number out there, people. Whether we write it down on an Excel spreadsheet or do it in the abstract abacus of compromise that we all have in our heads. This will eliminate 85 to 95% of whoever the heck is left, leaving us with 0.156% of the world's population. So you will be compatible enough to have a relationship with one person for every 640 that you meet. Proof.
We're sitting at a dark table in the back of the restaurant, holding hands in the candlelight. This is it. This is the date I've been waiting for almost a year. Yeah, I'd been waiting for Phil. I hadn't been able to get him out of my mind. I mean, the man is a walking pheromone. Seriously, you could bounce a quarter off any part of this man's anatomy. But he was 29. And I'm of the mind it would be unseemly for a 40-year-old woman to pursue a 29-year-old man, so I'd been waiting. I'd waited for 7 months, and now he was 30. If only he'd stop talking. All the talking was messing up his pretty face, and he was, oh, so very pretty. I mean, this man was drop-dead GQ model good-looking. And the way I saw it, if I could get a man that good-looking to date me, well, then I'd really be somebody. Except this date wasn't going so well. Hey, is this a date? Phil asked as he drove us to the restaurant in his beat-up Corolla. Damn, Jen, if I'd known it was a date, I would have worn a shirt with a collar. At the restaurant, the waiter approached the table. I ordered the bouillabaisse. Phil asked for the fish stew. After dinner, we went for a walk by the river, and I am a sucker for a moonlit walk by the river. As we stood there on the pier looking out over the water, it occurred to me, this man was going to kiss me. And it was going to be the perfect kiss. Well, it had to be. I mean, after all those months of suggestive text and provocative voice messages, there was no way this kiss was going to be anything less than perfect. And I'd waited for it for so long. I mean, not just these 7 months. This wasn't just about Phil. This was going to be the kiss I had waited for my entire life. The kiss I'd been told I could never have. You know the kiss. You've probably been waiting for it too. It's the kiss you've witnessed in corny movies and read about in cheap novels. It's the kiss that Danielle Steele and Hollywood have been pimping for years. Well, I believe in that kiss. I'd been waiting for that kiss. I was about to get mine. Phil looked deeply into my eyes. I smiled demurely. He leaned forward, the moonlight shining behind him. I leaned forward, the sound of the waves surrounding us. Phil took off his dingy ball cap and stuffed it in his back pocket. There was moonlight, there were waves, and his eyes, yes, his brown eyes locked on mine. I was transfixed. Surely he was about to kiss me, but maybe he won't. The tension was palpable. Time stood still. Suddenly his arms were around me, all the way around me, and his hands were in my hair. His breath smelled like garlic, and he was standing on my foot. But his lips, yes, his soft lips lingered moments from mine. Finally, he kissed me, and it was perfect. It was deep. It was passionate. It made me cry. I cried because this was the kiss I'd been waiting for my entire life, the kiss I'd been yearning for, the kiss I was told I could never have. This was the kiss that my ex-husband mocked and my therapist scorned, the one my girlfriends told me was a childish fantasy. But I believed in that kiss. I had waited for that kiss, and it finally happened. I just had the perfect kiss. And being on this side of that perfect kiss, I'm going to need a different name for every lackluster pressing of the lips that preceded it. You can have the perfect kiss, too. I mean, truly, you can. There's no reason why it can't happen for you. Oh, promise me you won't settle for less. You just have to keep waiting. You have to keep looking. And above all, you simply must believe.
Okay, 1 in 640. That's not too bad, right? After all, you can meet 640 people in a little over a year's time. See, it's not as easy as finding Waldo in a sea of Simpsons characters. No, there's a trick to it. The trick is, you've got to get to know this person well enough to realize that they fit into your 640. Then, you've got to hope like heck that they are not seeing anybody, and that you fit into their statistical probability model, and that they realize it too. I don't have odds prepared to calculate those percentages. But thankfully, that's the hard part. See, the easy part is tricking yourself into believing that all this is bullshit. That there is no statistical probability model, that there is no abstract abacus of compromise, and that fate brought the two of you together from the beginning of time. Because that's the easiest way to live in this society with that kind of momentous decision. See, there is not someone for everyone. Things are not meant to be. These are fairy tales told to children, not unlike Santa Claus and Cinderella. So, if there's not someone for everyone, what do we say of relationships? Does love actually exist? Well, see, love is a separate problem entirely. Love has no meaning. It's a word we throw around in songs and bed speak to make our relationship partner feel better about the contract. It means something different to everyone and can't be described from one person to the next. and not even really from one instant to the next, and therefore cannot be defined. Coincidentally, a lot like pain. Oh, and the same people that tell me that there is someone out there for everyone also tell me that when I'm in love, I'll know it. Well, I've known it like 3 or 4 or 5 times now, right? So that theory's bullshit.
I'm about 2 weeks into a new job at a new restaurant when one of my new coworkers comes up to me and corners me for a little, personal Q&A. The getting to know you stuff. Oh, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Where was your last job? But then it turns a little personal. But this is Michael Molnar. This is the smartest, funniest man I've ever met, and I have respect for him, so I indulge him. And finally he gets around and asks me about my better half. I explain, I don't have a better half. Really? So you're alone? Single. Single, I correct him. Oh, see, I find that to be very amazing, Kevin. See, you're funny, thanks. You're smart. Oh. You're a good catch. Shucks. So tell me, what's wrong with you?
There's this strange and mysterious creature known around the world as the weird single ant. She has whiskers on her chin and a dark mustache above her lip, and she has been seen wearing one of those polyester pantsuits with a stretchy waistband. Now, in Jewish culture, she's a matchmaker. But in Catholic culture like mine, she's a gym teacher. But in either case, she is known for her devotion to other people's happiness, and she has never been married. My father tells me about one of these in my family, a second cousin named May, who was a gym teacher and moonlighted as a bartender at his uncle's bar in the coal regions in Pennsylvania. Everyone would rumor as to why she didn't have a husband. Now, even though she was known to clack a guy or two who crossed her path at the bar, the most popular reason was that her high school sweetheart had been crushed by a cow on the day of the prom, and she could never love again.
I give Michael my pat answer. You see, here's the problem. I'm a little picky. Unfortunately for me, the guys I pick, they're pickier than I am.
I seem to have known from the time that I was very small that this was my destiny, Weird Aunt Molly. In fact, one of my earliest memories is sitting on my mother's lap and playing with her hands and noticing her wedding ring. That's my wedding ring. I wear that because I'm married to your dad. I thought about that, and I put my hand up next to hers, and I tried to imagine a wedding ring on my finger. It was so strange. I was 5 years old, and I got the feeling that I was different.
Or it's like the thing I tell my mom. Oh, come on, Mom, me get married? Now that's going to take an act of Congress.
I couldn't imagine a wedding ring on my finger. And so naturally I thought, I'm never getting married. I'm never getting married, ever. And it was okay. I didn't date. It wasn't that I didn't want to, it's just that guys weren't into girls like me. But I figured out a way, a way that I could be popular and happy. Now, not popular in the boys want to date you kind of way, but in a way that was just as powerful. And took me all through high school to the coolest sorority on campus and straight to rumors on 19th Street. I had discovered that I had this unique talent for being the prettiest girl's best friend. The funny fat girl. Oh, come on, like Natalie on Facts of Life. Right? Who did Tootie turn to when she needed a shoulder to cry on? This position also made sure that I wasn't left out of any of the big things, like parties or the prom or a sorority banquet, because there was always some guy who knew that if he wanted to take the homecoming queen, he had to find a date for her BFF. I loved being the prettiest girl's best friend. I was the most important person in her life. Well, until she got a boyfriend. And then, I would just be home alone with a six-pack, some pizza, and a TV. I understood. Really, it was okay.
Richard, my best friend, and I were sitting at a cafe in DuPont Circle on a Monday afternoon, bemoaning the fact that after an entire weekend of whoring ourselves up and down 17th Street, We are still single. We are befuddled. We find this amazing. We're both smart, we're both funny, we're young and attractive. Okay, this was 17 years ago. We are both charming. Richard is especially charming. Just this weekend, he charmed the pants off 3 UVA soccer players, literally. Charmed pants off. But here we sit. 2 male Carrie and Samanthas waiting on our Mr. Big. Hell, at this point, we'll settle for Mr. Average. Naturally, this leads to a conversation about Molly Ringwald. About her likability, but the improbability that she would actually capture that bow honk at the end of 16 Candles. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Molly Ringwald. I have this affinity to her, you know, the quirky, independent outsider who's always overlooked by the more pretty people. Yeah, it's kind of like her and Meg Ryan. Who doesn't like Meg Ryan? But in this moment, I'm starting to realize that being different and being needy is only attractive in the movies. So I turn to Richard and go, Richard, you know what I think? I think Meg Ryan's a fucking liar. That's right, America's pie-faced, shaggy-haired, small-breasted sweetheart has sold us a false bill of goods. You know, the problem is, Richard, I've always wanted to be Meg Ryan. Well, if you dyed your hair and you threw it out. No! Not be Meg Ryan, be like Meg Ryan, and be like that. Be like Julia Roberts, the prostitute against the rich man. But I realized Hollywood has duped us. They've sold us down the river with their so simple storylines, with their happy endings, with their oh so catchy catchphrases. You complete me.
You had me at hello.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
You make me want to be a better man.
As you wish.
I see dead people.
I'm just a girl looking at a boy, asking him to love her.
And I was done. In that moment, I decided to commit myself to a gay monastic life. Meals prepared for one, tastefully seasoned with herbs from my terrace garden. Holidays spent alone with mother. And date nights cuddled up with Kendall Jackson and internet porn. But that's when I saw them coming across DuPont Circle, 2 women with dark sunglasses, matching canes, sensible shoes. 2 blind lesbians. And as they got closer, I saw as one helped the other up on the curve that she had found first, and they nuzzled in and they whispered in each other's ears and they started to giggle, and it was 2 blind lesbians in love. And in that moment, I was given hope. If they could find each other, literally, if they could find each other in this big, crazy world, who am I to say there's not someone for me? And in that moment, the clouds parted, the noise stopped, and Oprah smiled down upon me. And I knew what I wanted. I wanted what they had. I wanted unconditional love from a life partner. I wanted blind lesbian love.
They say when God closes a door, he opens a window. But who really wants to jump out a window? Dan and I had been dating for 6 months. It had been mostly good. I was crazy about him when we first met, back in the winter, when he was all dark and depressed and playing guitar late into the night. But now it was summer. He was all outdoorsy and active. We'd spent a long Sunday afternoon together, me sitting in the car watching When Harry Met Sally on my iPod for the umpteenth time, while Dan rode his mountain bike around Craze Canyon, which is not a canyon at all. It's just a muddy crevice in the woods. When he was done riding his bike, we went for a walk together. The sun was setting, we were holding hands. It was quite lovely. But as I looked over at Dan, my heart sank. I was not in love with him anymore. In fact, I didn't even like him anymore. I knew I'd been spending more and more time at work so I could avoid him. And the time that we did spend together got all messed up with petty fights and mixed messages, like the time he took me to the mall to buy me sneakers, which is ludicrous as I do not run unless chased. And then there was the time I took him to the pound to find a cat, which he took completely the wrong way, but I swear to God, he never told me he was allergic to cats. It's nothing a bottle of Benadryl couldn't fix anyway. So it's Sunday afternoon, we're walking through the woods, we find this bench to sit on, watching the sunset, and we're holding hands. Dan gives mine a little squeeze before he says, "Hey, Jen, this isn't working out." It's amazing to me how many things you can think in a nanosecond. In that one, I considered what my life would be like without Dan. Without him and his spandex shorts and his cycling magazines, I'd feel free from feeling like an utter and complete slug all the time. Without him and his power bars and his protein shakes, I'd be free to eat all the sugar-laden, calorie-laden crap I wanted. I could lie on the couch and read all day, even if it was a beautiful day outside. I could stay up late, I could listen to whatever kind of music I wanted, I would have my life back. This was it. This was my window. And he brought it up, putting me in the very desirable victim position. He had opened the window and I was going to jump right out of it. I turned to look him in the eye sincerely and took both his hands in mine. Another nanosecond passed, and with it another vision of my life without Dan. The weekends I'd spend alone. The dinner parties where I'd be the only singleton at a table full of happy couples. Having to reactivate my profile on Match and plentyoffish.com. The endless first dates, the devastating disappointment as yet another seemingly compatible man reveals himself to have an utter disregard for table manners, to consider his mother his best friend. And oh, dear God, fantasy football? I considered all of this as it sat on the other side of my open window, and quickly decided a bird in the hand is better than being single at 40. So I slammed that window shut. You're right, Dan. This isn't working, not like it is now, but we can fix it. Move in with me, Dan. Yeah, move in with me. Don't you see? Either you move in with me or we have to break up. Sometimes crazy comes at you so fast. That's the only explanation I can offer for why, a week later, Dan sold all his furniture and moved in with me. Then again, I guess he didn't want to jump out a window either.
I'll drink 6 Miller Lights and approach the prettiest woman in the bar. Start a conversation with a compliment. Hi, how you doing? Has anyone ever told you you have beautiful hair? If she was receptive, I'd quickly focus in, make eye contact, and pretend to concentrate on what she had to say. Yeah. In time, I'd slowly move my eyes down to her lips, letting them linger there, following them as she spoke. Then I'd smile like that with my lips, as if I had just noticed something surprisingly lovely about her. Slowly, I'd move my eyes back up to meet her eyes, all the time smiling with my eyes, to show that I was interested in the conversation. I'd repeat this, as needed, until the moment was right, when I would lean in and mumble, "Can I kiss you?" As if I was so overcome by her that I couldn't keep it in a moment longer. I got shot down a lot. Not that it mattered though, right? It was a numbers game. I would just look for the second prettiest woman in the bar and start a conversation with a compliment. Hi, how you doing? Has anyone ever told you you have very skinny arms? Things had had changed for me. And in the last year, they'd gone from 0 to 60. I finally understood what all those romantic movies went on and on about. I was experiencing nothing less than puberty at 33. The excitement, the dancing, the flirting, the intensity of a stranger's kiss. All of it with my own car, money, and apartment. This was better than okay.
David and I are cruising around campus. We're in his candy apple red MG convertible. We have the top down. We have our Wayfarers on. We have his brand new cassette deck blasting our new favorite song. Wake me up before you go. I'm not planning on. All right, it's 1983. It's also the second semester of my freshman year at college. We pull up to the music building. He's going to let me out for class, and that's when we see him, Scott, coming across the quad. I can't believe he used to go out with that, says my current boyfriend about my former boyfriend. I know, I say with that gag me with a spoon inflection for emphasis. That's when Scott sees us, sees that we see him, and he scurries into the closest building. You see, Scott was the first guy I ever went out with, and Scott was, well, my first boyfriend, and Scott was, well, he was my first. And then after a semester of almost practically living together, I dumped him. See, I was 19, and I believed them when they told me that there were plenty of fish in the sea, because, why, you're 19, there are plenty of fish in the sea. And it was ugly, because I gave him no warning, no notice, just one day, dropped him, kicked him to the curb. It got ugly. Dr. Ginrad had to completely rearrange the baritone section just to keep him from crying during the Alleluia chorus. But that's when I met David. David was cool. David was a man about town. David was a closeted jock. Somehow we became instant friends. Then friends with benefits, and it was perfect. We would hit the bars, drink with the frat boys, dance with the pretty girls, and go home and screw like rabbits. I thought it was perfect. We were planning this big beach trip. It's all we talked about for a whole month, just he and I, Myrtle Beach, the redneck Riviera of the South. Only two things stood in our way. We had to finish school. They had a week of classes, a week of finals, and then I had this obligation to volunteer at Buffalo Mountain Camp for 2 weeks. See, I had gone to this camp as a child. My parents had gone there as a child, and I had volunteered there through summer, but somehow this 2 weeks seemed so long. Somewhere around, I don't know, day one, I turned into a 14-year-old girl and started to miss David. I wondered if he was thinking about me. I started to write his name in my mashed potatoes with my spoon. At night, lying in my sleeping bag, looking up at the stars, somewhere out there. Finally, it was over, and I rush home, and I pick up the phone, and I call him, "Hey, I'm home a day early, come on over, we can pack, we can start talking about the beach. What are you doing?" Silence. It seems in the 2 weeks that I was gone, that David had broken up with me. And this was the dark ages before cell phones or text messages or email, and he had neglected to tell me. Not only had he broken up with me, he had taken up with it. Well, he hadn't just taken up with the new guy, he had actually moved in with the new guy. Well, it wasn't really a new guy. David had moved in with Scott. I can't believe you went out with that. There is a certain pain that only happens in same-sex relationships, where the guy you're so into drops you like a used condom for the one you thought was unworthy. So I went home, threw myself across my bed, and started to cry. And I reached up and turned on the radio for comfort, and that's when I heard her coming across the AM dial. Turn around.
Every now and then I get a little bit lonely and you never come around.
Turn around.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of listening to the sound of my tears.
Turn around. Oh my God, I am so gay. myself together and I took myself back to Buffalo Mountain for the rest of the summer. I buried my sorrow in cookouts and canoeing and playing capture the flag. And I came home a new man 2 weeks before school started, and I got the phone call from David. It seems he missed his drinking buddy and his cuddle bunny. It seems he had postponed his trip to the beach. I can't imagine going without you. I considered it, but I had to ask, okay, but what about Scott? Oh, Scott's cool. You know how cheap he is. When I told him we'd split the cost 3 ways. Go to the beach and share a room with 2 guys who are sleeping together, both of which I have slept with? I may be gay, but I'm not that gay. Okay, not yet. Really? Is that what you think? Ha! What's wrong with you?
I read once that the moment you turn 30, you instantly become invisible to 18-year-old girls. I was 29 and 11/12. Decided to celebrate my impending doom by having a panic attack, applying for 80 jobs, and moving all of my shit to Collegetown, Ohio. And let me tell you though, the view there was fucking amazing, okay? I'd never seen so many fake tans, or tramp stamps, or the little booty shorts with the words on the ass. Like, I don't know what pink is, but I'm a fan. They have this bar there called Brick Street. Okay, Brick Street was in Playboy magazine's top 25 hottest college bars in the country. This place was girls gone wild, but only for rich, anorexic white chicks with no self-esteem. My favorite. This was a tight-bodied oasis in the middle of my desert of desperation, and I was prepared to drink from whichever fountain presented herself first. Walked up to the bar, ordered a Long Island, and then I went out to the railing that overlooked the dance floor to try to see exactly what Playboy magazine thought was so special about this place. And holy shit, okay, that is not a dance floor, okay? Because I have seen dancing, and that is not it. Okay, that is holding a bottle of beer and spinning around. Okay, and those are just the classy girls. A majority of the dancers down there are doing what is closer to an erect form of lap dance, okay, where you put your hands on your knees, some of them already their ankles, and then you move your booty around in concentric circles, okay? This is not dancing, this is a mating ritual. As evidenced by the fact that I witnessed a male of the species walk down the stairs and then across the dance floor to a victim that he had found, one without a guard. And then, rather than get her phone number, maybe get her name, or even tap her on the shoulder, instead, suctions himself onto her like an Indy race car seatbelt and proceeds to ride this poor, unfortunate, honestly seemingly unaffected stranger for a better part of Buck Cherry's crazy bitch. This was intimidating and I was ill-prepared. See, I do not have the skill set required for Indy race car seatbelt levels of confrontation. But thankfully, I knew just how to fake it. Okay, it's going to take a delicate balance of the correct number of Long Islands, 4. I need to run back to my Jeep and get some more tag body spray. When I get back, I'm going to need to find a prey out there in the wild. Hand selected. One without a visible defense strategy. And that's when I saw her. My beautiful gazelle. Separated from the herd.
I was hanging out early on a Friday at Club Chaos with some friends when she introduced herself to me for the first time. Rachel. I already knew who she was. See, this chick I was trying to hook up with was trying to hook up with her, but we had never met. She was really pretty, but not my type, you know? Too sparkly, diamond earrings, gold bracelet, upper class. Not that it really mattered anyway. I mean, she was totally out of my league. Seriously, she was 23 with a tight little body, and she spent all her time cycling. I was 33 and spent all my time, well, she knows. Anyway, when she came in, she came right up to me, and she started asking me about my family and my hometown, and the whole time she would lean in and put her lips up close to my ear to be heard over the music. I was skeptical, but having a good time when she asked me for my information. So I ran to the bar and I got a card and a pen, and I started to write. I wanted her to think I was cool, creative, funny, maybe even sexy, I don't know. But I couldn't just write my name. I needed to make a statement, you know, something impressive. I struggled, and then it came to me. Pussy is finger licking good, call me. And it was done.
Long blonde hair, probably bleached. Definitely bleached. Which reeked of equal parts superficiality and insecurity. My favorite. I'd only had 3.5 Long Islands, but that would have to be enough, because any more and I would render myself impotent, contaminating this entire experiment. So I went to make my move on my prey. And just then, some douchebag in plaid shorts and a pink polo, really? With a popped collar, even more, really? Swoops in and takes my mark. And not only does he do that, but then he starts to do this douchebag dance that you've probably seen, like in a movie with Vince Vaughn or Will Ferrell, where you grab your ankle with one hand, you put your other hand behind your head, and then inexplicably gyrate back and forth as if getting punched in the stomach and subsequently hit in the spine with a baseball bat over and over, no rhythm, no music, and no regard for people around you whatsoever. And you know what? That shit worked. I know. I don't know anybody who wouldn't want to clock the frat guy in the frosted tips with a 4-iron, but he started talking to this girl, and then they started making out. God, I hope he knew her, because if that's the kind of shit that works in this town, the seizure shuffle, well then I don't stand a chance. It seemed like hours had passed. Probably because hours had passed. Every feeble attempt I made at entering that penitentiary of lust down there was met with either disgust or laughter or this look on a girl's face like, yeah, right, Grandpa. What are you, like 30? Yes, I am. 30. And that's when I realized the look that they were all giving me. The bouncer, the bartender, all the girls out there. The same look they gave Old Yeller at the end of the movie. Like they should just take me out back and do away with my 30-year-old life. See, Brick Street, college town, seems like a bachelor's paradise on paper, but when you're 30 and single, it's more like being a diabetic in Wonka World. I mean, you look all you want, but at the end of the day, you're home alone, with the banana in your hand.
Rachel called me, and we exchanged a few emails back and forth, but I hadn't made a date yet. I was stalling. Honestly, I wasn't looking for her. I wasn't looking for anything or anybody that required an emotional connection. I was hanging out with this LA Lakers cheerleader who dropped into my lap at Alanis Morissette concert. She was crazy and hot, and had recently decided that she was maybe a lesbian. Well, Ani DeFranco was playing at the 930 Club, and every lesbian in the city was there. The cheerleader and I were hanging out near the stage. She was standing behind me with one hand on my breast and one hand in my pants when I looked up and I saw Rachel in the balcony, and I pulled away in a panic. After the show, the cheerleader went to the bathroom, and I hung out in that big open area as the lights came up. I was kind of hoping that Rachel would see me, and she did. Molly, I didn't know you were going to be here. Some of us are going to Chaos. Why don't you come? I'll buy you a drink. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't tonight. By the time I got to Chaos, the cheerleader and I were over. I mean, she freaked out in the car when I just mentioned that she could date other people, you know, that we weren't dating exclusively. After a big fight out front, she went to the dance floor and I went in to find Rachel. Hi, I just had to drop off some friends, but I'm alone now. About an hour went by and we were talking when the cheerleader came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder, and I thought she was gonna make a scene and blow this for me, but she didn't. She just put her hand on her hip and said, "She's very pretty, Molly. I'm sure the two of you will be very happy together." What? How crazy is that? What does that mean? And all I could think to myself was, come on, happy together?
Sitting here on the back porch, this is why I married Andy. So many people have asked me that in the last 7 years, and I never knew how to answer. Peer pressure is what I would usually say, but this was it. My vision of the two of us at 80, sitting here on the back porch, holding hands in the sunset and looking out over the roses. This vision was compelling enough for me to say, I do, even when I couldn't really say I love you. But we weren't 80. I was only 39, and we weren't holding hands. Mine were clenched in fists in my lap, and his were tapping nervously on the railing. We'd just come back from the beach. We'd gone to the beach to fix it being everything, the petty fights and the silent scorn. Just a day ago, I had been at the beach, lolling in the sunshine, lathered up with the SPF 80 and reading Eat, Pray, Love like every other woman in America. I got as far as page 12, the part where the author realizes she doesn't want to be married anymore, but that the only thing more unthinkable than leaving her husband is staying with him. She goes on to say, and I quote, "My husband, who had been my lighthouse, became my albatross in equal measure." Sitting there on the beach, choking back tears, I set the book down, stood up, and told my husband I needed to get some ice cream. When I got back to our blanket, he had picked up the book and had gotten to that same page 12. Without a word, we went back to the hotel, packed our things, and went home 3 days early. Now here we were, sitting on the back porch. The beach hadn't worked. Individual therapy hadn't worked. Couples counseling hadn't worked. The $2,000 marriage retreat weekend hadn't worked. I mean, Jesus Christ, we had tried so hard. We went on vacations together. We went on vacations apart. He went sailing in the islands. I took up yoga. The idea was, if we could each find our own passion, then we could bring that passion to the relationship, but that theory was backfiring. I'd gone back to school, I'd started a new business, I was surrounding myself with interesting, dynamic people who only made being home with my husband more dreadful. But what was so dreadful about it? I mean, he didn't beat me, he didn't cheat on me, he wasn't stealing from me. The only thing that was amiss was I was not in love with him, and why did that have to be such a big deal? I mean, who was I to want more? What we had, 7 years of marriage, it was safe. It was secure. It had flatlined years ago, and it was killing me. Sitting there on the back porch, I realized love shouldn't be an expendable part of a marriage. It should be the most important part. I genuinely believe that 1 + 1 should equal more than 2, somehow. Love and marriage, they should be amazing. I knew I wanted to be settled, but I didn't want to settle like this. And I couldn't tread water a moment longer. I looked at my husband and I said, "Hun, I have got to go. He said, where are you going to go, Jen? I don't know. But I have got to leave this mediocre marriage on the off chance I can find something amazing. That's not the kind of thing you should ever say out loud to another person. But I just had. Andy's face just kind of glazed over, and we both sat there, staring out at the roses. After a few minutes, I got up and kissed him on the cheek and said goodbye. To him, to the roses, and to my vision of the back porch.
All right, so is it me or is it them? Okay, the easy answer is that it's me, right? After all, I am the only common link in all of my failed relationships. So after years of heartbreak and despair, and honestly not even really a lot of heartbreak, decided to take a look at my personality, at least the one that I show to people. Find out exactly why the law of averages was failing me. What's wrong with me? Am I too picky? Trust me, that's bullshit. At this point, I've limited myself to girls that will say yes. Am I not good looking enough? Probably not enough for some skanks. Am I not funny enough? Please, right? Do I not make enough money? My 93 Wrangler is completely paid off with state-of-the-art cassette deck. Thank you. Am I not good enough in bed? Honestly, by the time we've gotten that far in our relationship for me to fail at that, mission accomplished, Corporal. Am I not confident enough? Ah, okay, we found one. But why would I be? You know, I'm a confused narcissist here in this world. I have every reason to believe that I'm the greatest guy here, but absolutely no evidence to back it up. How are douchebags in pink polos able to do in this town what I can't? See, but I refuse to believe that it's me, because not only does it not make logical sense, but that would also be admitting defeat. So, if it's not me, then it's gotta be them. So I'm just gonna have to find a new them.
I have a new philosophy, WWBLD. What would blind lesbians do? And I think, given the chance, they'd go on a blind date. So, when my ex-roommate and good friend Sarah calls from Ann Arbor to say she's met someone who knows someone who recently moved to DC that would be perfect, I go. And I meet this 20-something-year-old wonder kid who's giving a Columbia Law a year break and coming back to help the family with the business. And after that first awkward date, I call Sarah back up and I tell her, well, how we went to Childe Harold because we both like greasy hamburgers and dive bars. How both being raised Southern gentlemen, we fought over opening doors and paying the bill. About how he walked me to my stoop on Columbia Road. And we shook hands goodnight. And I turned to go inside, and I turned around and I gave him a big hug. And he walked away, stopped, took 2 steps back up and says, you know, if you wanted to, I'd let you kiss me goodnight. And I wanted to, and I did. And it was a perfect kiss. I didn't wait the mandatory 2 days, like all my friends said. I called the next morning, set up the second date, which turned to a third date, which turned to 2 weeks, which turns to months. And I started to dream of our life together. I thought about our 3-story brick Victorian we'd buy in Logan Circle with the revenue-generating English basement. I thought about our meticulously groomed backyard where we would sit on our back porch with our two pickapoos, Desdemona and Ophelia. I thought about gazing out at the jungle gym that we refurnished out of recycled materials for our adopted son, Sang Lee. That's why I was a little surprised when he stopped by work on Friday to cancel our weekend plans. It seems he was going to New York to follow up on a lead on a new apartment. It seems like our year was up. We'd kind of been in denial, but Columbia law was calling. And as I saw that proverbial door slamming in my face, I thought about the day that his sister moved, and I met his sister and his mom and his dad and his step-parents and both sets of grandparents in one day, and somehow we both survived. I thought about those late-night, long-distance phone calls I made from Tennessee when I was staying with my mother during her illness. I thought about how doing nothing on the weekend didn't seem like a waste of time if I did nothing with him. So I scrambled for a window. You know, if you wanted me to, I'd go to New York with you. And he smiled and he said, "Yeah, I don't think that's necessary." I think our relationship could use a little space. So 2 weeks later, the U-Haul was packed and off he went to New York with the off chance that he could find something amazing. Sometimes I wonder, what was wrong with him?
It defied logic. I mean, Rachel thought I was sophisticated because I had plants, okay? Things were going great, but by our second week of dating, she was staying over almost every single night. And this one morning, I needed to get up early for work, so I carefully and quietly peeled myself out of bed and tiptoed across the room. I didn't want to wake her and expose her to my naked body in broad daylight. So I made it, and I'm standing at the sink when in my horror, I feel her come up behind me, put her hand on my butt, and squeeze. It's so cute. Really? I love how soft and squishy it is. You like my butt. Are you blind? Later that week, I had kind of a crazy bout of machine gun farts. You know that kind? Oh, you've had those? Well, when I came into the bedroom, Rachel was sitting up with this look on her face. What's wrong? I'm so impressed by you. Huh? I could never pass gas like that. I'd be too worried about what you thought of me. Oh, well, if you find that impressive, I got a lot more where that came from. We had plans for dinner, and I made this slight detour to happy hour first. I was 2 pints in when I realized I'm going to be late. So I pop in some gum to cover the cause, and I hurry off to meet her. I get to the restaurant, and she greets me with a big hug and a kiss, and she takes a deep sigh. I just love how there's always this slight taste of beer on your breath. Seriously, what's wrong with her?
Now, I didn't come here tonight to shit all over your Valentine's Day. Well, here we go. See, there's a fine line between faith and delusion. Both suggest the belief in something despite the overwhelming evidence against it. And honestly, sometimes even because of the evidence against it. See, I don't believe in fate. I don't believe in luck. I have had to create my own luck. I've had to put myself in the best position possible to have my best odds at finding happiness. And if that requires breaking it down into a mathematical, scientific formula, Well, so be it. Some of you may call it jaded. I call it science. Just don't bullshit yourself. Though I understand the temptation, as it's a lot easier to trust with a veil pulled over your eyes. See, it takes a long time to recover from learning that good things don't just happen to good people, at least not blindly and without effort. I finally had to up myself out of college town, move here to DC, to a more target-rich environment for me. Go where the prey is. Stop fucking around in college bars. Maybe even join plentyoffish.com, since I seem to be following their business model anyway. We both worked at the same college. She didn't smoke. She was a Democrat. She was unwilling to do certain things in the bedroom. But she did like the room at a balmy 72 degrees, so we earned enough compatibility points to qualify for a relationship. And now, 2 years later, on May 28th, at the gym where we both worked, at the college where we met, we will be getting married in front of 100 to 250 of our closest friends. Now, I could pretend post facto that fate brought us together if I wanted, and maybe it would help strengthen the bond that we have. Maybe it would help me profess my undying love to her. But it would also devalue all of the work that we have to constantly do to make this work. See, love is not blind. Love is embarrassed. She's embarrassed of Meg Ryan, because that's not real. Real love, those Helen Hunt mad about you moments, you know, it's watching my fiance do an impromptu voiceover of our cat's thoughts. It's watching her try to appreciate fantasy football because she knows it's important to me. And it's being proud of her when she's humble enough to admit that maybe this one time, probably not ever again or ever before, that she might actually be not right. That's real love. We're learning new compatibility points every day. Now, is there someone else out there, according to my formula, that I would also be compatible with, perhaps in another group of 640 people?
And it's got nothing to do with me, it's just the way things are. You might not know this, but you are not the person you used to be. Every minute of every day, in the background, without your knowledge and perhaps without your permission, you are becoming a different person. The very cells of your body are dying, turning over, being replaced. Skin cells, hair cells, yeah, you probably knew about that. But did you know, in the course of a week, you've got a brand new liver? Give it a month, new lungs. Bit by bit, all the time, out with the old, in with the new, so that in the course of 7 years, there's not a single part of you that's the same as it was. You are a completely different person. I like to think of it as a romance reset button. Just in case you haven't been able to stand up for yourself, just in case you find yourself somewhere you didn't want to be, have faith. Soon enough, you'll be able to begin again. For me, it means I get back to painting, I get back to sleeping late, I get back to reading and riding my bicycle, I get back to being myself and becoming the kind of woman, well, the kind of woman my soulmate is going to love. It's called the 7-year itch. It's real, and it's happening right now. It's been happening all along. It's our guarantee for new beginnings, and the way I'm going might be my only hope for a happy ending.
She was wonderful, smart, attractive, healthy, everything I thought I could never have. Except, well, see, I have this theory. There are umbrella people and, well, okay, wet people. See, because I'm completely willing to accept the fact that if you're not an umbrella person, you may just end up wet. But I don't care. To me, the logic of carrying an umbrella just to be prepared for the chance that you might need to be outside walking a distance at the exact time that it might rain hard enough to get you so wet that you would, I don't know, catch a cold at your next air-conditioned destination, or be so like embarrassingly ugly by either a flat head of hair or an over-revealing t-shirt, tips the scales heavily towards no umbrella. Well, I started to catch on right from the beginning that Rachel, yeah, she was an umbrella person. In fact, she carried an umbrella all the time. And she was always asking me to hold it for her or put it under my chair and inevitably walk back to that restaurant where she left that umbrella behind. And there were other things too, you know, like how she cut open a chip bag with scissors and then would seal it closed with a rubber band. And how she asked me to squeegee her shower doors after every shower to make sure there weren't any water spots. And get this, when we went to the mall, we drove around for what must have been like 20 minutes looking for just the right spot that wouldn't jeopardize her car to an SUV door ding. Oh yeah, but she used her umbrella for good as well as evil. Sure, you know, like how she saved me from all those terrible diseases I could have got from the candy dish at my favorite Chinese restaurant. And how she saved me from the injuries from carrying too many groceries at one trip. And how she saved me almost every day from getting run over by a bus because she wouldn't let me cross on anything below a 10 count. And honestly, how she saved me. If you ask Rachel to tell you our story, she would tell you that she knew from the moment we met that we would be happy together. I still turned out to be Weird Aunt Molly, I did. But not like I described her. The mustache and the whiskers, they've been removed with a laser. And that polyester pantsuit, well, it's high performance Patagonia. And the reason that I don't have a husband is that the prettiest girl in school not only calls me her best friend, she also calls me her wife. I guess I'm just lucky.
Tim and I are sitting at the Willard having dinner. It's his favorite place to eat, and it's his turn to pay. It's the third time we've had dinner in 2 weeks. We like to eat. We like being with each other. On paper, we're perfect. We both grew up in small Appalachian towns a stone throws away from each other. Our joke is it took us 20 years and traveling 500 miles to meet the guy next door. Over dessert, Tim starts to tell me this story about this dream that he has, this reoccurring dream. It's Christmas morning, he gets up, and he has this gift. The gift is wrapped all in gold paper. It represents who he is, himself, the best piece of his life. And he keeps traveling around the room. The room is filled with all the people from his life, everyone he's ever cared for, family and friends. And he keeps presenting this gift of himself. And they keep rejecting it. And he goes to person to person. At this point, he mimes lifting a box and putting it on the table between us. You see that? This man has blind lesbian love for me. Which makes sense since he dresses like one. And I sit there, staring at my future across the table. And, well, here's the thing. Tim's a few years older than me. He's quite a few years older. He's about, well, the age that I am now. And he works a lot, so he's not really active. And I guess my hesitation is telling, because he starts to kind of tear up, and well, come on. Neediness is not an attractive quality, right? So, and he pays the bill, and we hug goodnight, and it's early, so I head to 17th Street, right? And I hit a bar, and I meet this intern from Dartmouth named he was hot. He's real hot. And he and I had an amazing 2 weeks together. And sometimes I wonder, what the fuck is wrong with me?
See, I know it's going to take work. Hollywood would have you believe that the wedding is the end, the finish line. Nothing to do but ride off into the sunset and enjoy the rest of your life together. But what happens after that? You know, that part takes work too. See, I don't believe in fate. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in Meg Ryan. But I do believe that there's a person out there who I care about very deeply, who also cares about me. And as long as I'm around and able, I'm going to try to be the best person that I can be for her sake, because she deserves it. I may not believe in a lot, but I believe that.
Clapping, but this time let's let it be for John Crowley on sound and lights. And we would love it if you would give a rip-roaring round of applause for the amazing Amy Couchu and Joseph Price, who took 21 stories from 4 different tellers, wove them together into a cohesive, delightful work of art. Thank you so much. Wants to thank Meg Ryan.
I did,
But we'd really like to thank SpeakeasyDC for believing in this show, taking it to a level of possibly on our own. And Amy, would you please?
Yeah.